In 1890, I reopened a case the South tried to bury, because the swamp never forgets, and neither do I.
The report begins in Kentucky, 1856, where summer heat carried something heavier than weather: unspoken fear. I was dispatched to Willow Creek to investigate a disappearance that threatened the local order like a cracked foundation. Silas Cain wasn't law. He was fear with boots on, and people mistook fear for stability.
The town looked ordinary, until you noticed how every porch went quiet when a stranger passed.
I needed 4 things: light, paper, patience, and a town willing to slip up.
They didn't speak because they trusted me. They spoke because Cain's absence was bad for business.
I started with the man who saw Cain last, because the last sight is where truth starts to leak.
Jebediah arrived wearing the swamp like a stain, mud on his clothes, terror behind his eyes. Fear doesn't prove a monster exists, but it proves something happened that men can't explain cleanly.
Jebediah said the chase was routine, until the trail pointed straight toward a place locals avoided on purpose. From a distance, it looked peaceful, but danger is often just silence wearing a mask. The deeper they went, the less the world looked like a world, and the more it felt like a closed fist. When trained animals refuse a trail, it's either superstition or something the men don't want to admit. Jebediah swore the fog rose like breath, thick enough to make armed men feel like lost children in the dark. Then came a scream, sharp, brief, just enough to pull Cain forward like a hook in the dark. Jebediah described a gurgle, a cut-off roar, and then the swamp returning to normal, as if it had eaten sound. He called it a demon, roots for arms, because monster is the easiest word to hide behind.
I asked the only question fear avoids. Did he actually see Cain die? Or did he only hear an ending?
He couldn't produce a body, only terror. And terror can be real even when the explanation is invented.
Next, I met the man whose order depended on chains, and who needed Cain's disappearance to mean anything but failure.
Beaumont spoke like a judge, drank like a king, and called brutality maintenance. He didn't describe facts, he described rumors, because rumors make better fences than truth. Beaumont blamed Sarah Joseph for witchcraft, because it was safer than admitting desperation can outthink oppression.
Flint offered a cleaner story, greed and betrayal, and sometimes the cleanest story is the one built to sell itself.
Flint didn't mourn Cain. He measured the vacancy, like a man eyeing land after a fire. His story was simple. Money makes men brave, and it makes them cruel in quieter ways.
Flint called the demon a cover story, because the swamp did it, erases responsibility like rain erases tracks.
So I did what every investigator learns to do. I stopped chasing fear and started chasing receipts.
Jebediah didn't move like a man with sudden fortune. He moved like a man afraid his shadow would testify.
If Cain's men had taken the reward, it never reached their feet, their hands, or their habits.
Then I found the first hard fact. No one had claimed a cent, not officially, not quietly, not anywhere I could trace.
The monster story explained the fear, the voodoo story explained the prejudice, and the mutiny story explained greed, yet none explained the silence.
To understand why Cain vanished, I had to understand who he was chasing and what they were running from.
People don't gamble with a childer's life unless staying is already a sentence.
By the time the swamp appeared, it wasn't a hiding place. It was the last door still unlocked.
The town traded rumors like currents, and every rumor pointed back to the swamp like a compass needle to iron.
An old man showed me a blank spot on every map, the place even hunters pretended didn't exist.
I walked the perimeter because the swamp doesn't give answers. but it does give signs if you stop forcing a story onto it. Under the green surface, I saw structure, too deliberate for nature, like someone had trained the swamp to lie. Then came the second sign, clean cuts in places no lost man would bother to cut unless he knew exactly where he was going. That's when I stopped thinking about monsters and started thinking about a man with time, skill, and a reason to remain unseen.
Beaumont couldn't imagine a careful mind behind the swamp, because he had spent his life insisting certain minds didn't exist.
Flint couldn't imagine anything but greed, because greed is the only language his trade ever taught him to read.
Then a message reached me. Sarah Joseph had been spotted near the Ohio River, alive, with both children.
A river town feels like an edge of the world. One step from capture, one step from freedom.
She didn't speak like a woman selling a tale. She spoke like a mother counting breaths.
Sarah described cruelty without decoration, and every plain word made the escape feel less like risk and more like necessity.
She said the children didn't cry because they'd learned the kind of silence survival demands.
By the time they reached the swamp, Cain was no longer a man behind them, and he was time running out. Sarah said they waited for the end because the swamp had closed around them and the hunters had closed behind.
And then, she said, a man appeared. Not a spirit, not a demon.
Elijah didn't talk much. He pointed, he guided, he measured every step like the swamp was a machine only he could operate. The route she described wasn't luck. It was engineering disguised as wilderness. He fed them, rested them, and kept them quiet, like he'd done it before, many times, for many others. Sarah said Elijah promised one thing: Cain would not trouble them anymore, and he said it like a man stating a result, not a threat.
She admitted they didn't see what happened, because Elijah told them the safest witness is the one who cannot testify.
What they heard matched Jebediah's account: rage, panic, swallowing sound, and then the swamp pretending it had always been calm. Sarah said Elijah's words were simple. Cain was with the swamp now, and the simplicity frightened me more than any monster. And then came the key. Elijah wanted the world to believe in a ghost, because ghosts can't be hunted. Sarah didn't prove voodoo or mutiny. She proved a fourth possibility. Cain met someone smarter than him.
I returned to Kentucky and asked about Elijah the only safe way. Quietly, respectfully, and never in front of the wrong ears.
The first consistent whisper was this: Elijah wasn't only a runaway. He'd learned how water and earth obey a plan.
Back at the swamp, each small discovery stacked into a single conclusion. Someone had been shaping this place for years.
I found a place where the ground lied convincingly, built to accept a man's weight and refuse to give it back.
Cain's strength was also his weakness. He always lunged forward, and Elijah only had to predict him once. The demon Jebediah saw could have been mist and moss, but the terror was real, because the trap was real.
Beaumont needed dark magic to keep his world intact, but method is more frightening, because method can be repeated.
Flint was right about one thing. Cain's men didn't save him. Whatever happened, they chose themselves first.
The swamp wasn't just a hazard. It was a system, a sanctuary for the hunted, and a maze for the hunters.
No body surfaced, and that absence stopped being mystery, because it started looking like intention.
I began to suspect Elijah didn't kill Cain, because death ends a threat, but captivity turns it into a warning.
By 1890, I could admit what I couldn't say in 1856. Some forms of justice grow where the law refuses to.
And like all dangerous truths, it was replaced by a safer headline, one that blamed nature and protected people.
Feared slave hunter lost to swamp perils, it read, because a man outsmarted us was not a story power wanted printed. The article wasn't just reporting. It was warning the desperate to stay put, using Cain's disappearance as a fence.
If I named Elijah in 1856, I would have painted a target on the only sanctuary those families had left.
Cain wore the name Spectre, but the real ghost was the man who could vanish in plain sight and turn a swamp into protection.
If Cain was trapped alive, it was the perfect inversion. An expert in capture forced to learn what helplessness feels like. The swamp became a kingdom without a flag, where the hunted could breathe and the hunters could disappear.
Jebediah lied to hide cowardice. Beaumont lied to protect power. Flint lied to sell cynicism. And Sarah lied to protect a protector.
The truth was not supernatural. It was human ingenuity sharpened by suffering and aimed with perfect restraint. The myth of a monster was safer than the truth of a mastermind, because the truth gives courage to the powerless.
But the file didn't end with a headline, and there was an addendum I never meant anyone to read.
I returned to the swamp because the truth wasn't finished with me. And I wasn't finished with it. I packed light because the swamp punishes weight, and it punishes panic more. The safest time to ask forbidden questions is when the town is still asleep. An old-timer warned me, the swamp doesn't kill you fast. It convinces you you're safe, and then it collects.
When I crossed the tree line, sound changed, as if the world outside had been shut behind a door. The air felt like wet cloth over the mouth, enough to make a rational man start believing in curses. Then I saw it, an intentional notch, the kind a man makes when he expects to return.
The water wasn't consistent, like someone had carved it, shaped it, and taught it where to swallow.
A moss mat can be a bridge or a lid, and I couldn't tell which until it was too late.
I felt the ground give for half a second and understood how Cain could vanish without leaving a trail of struggle. After that, every step I took was tethered, because the swamp punishes confidence first. Then I entered a pocket where even the insects went quiet, like the swamp was listening back.
I saw knotwork, competent, deliberate, proof that a patient mind had been living where maps refused to go.
Elijah's sanctuary wasn't a cave. It was a series of small mercies arranged like stepping stones.
A simple X, no words, yet it communicated perfectly. Step wrong here.
The straightest path felt like an invitation, and in the swamp, invitations are usually bait.
Then I found Cain's hat, caught like a deliberate bookmark, placed to be seen by the right eyes.
A man doesn't lose a hat in a place like this without losing everything else, unless someone wants the hat found.
That's when I heard it. 3 faint taps from beneath the surface, too patterned to be nature.
I lowered my lantern, and the water swallowed the light like it had been hungry for it. For one brief second, I saw the truth. An underwater path, built to carry one man and betray another. I felt it, the sensation every fugitive knows. Someone was watching, and they weren't afraid of me.
The reeds parted, as if admitting me, or as if I'd been expected all along. I saw him, still as a cypress, proof that the swamp's king was not a spirit.
He didn't aim a weapon, he enforced a boundary, and boundaries are the first language of a fortress.
I made my intent visible, because in a place like this, the wrong intent gets you swallowed quietly.
The tapping returned, and this time it carried a second sound, a faint metallic rattle that didn't belong in nature. The platform wasn't just a walkway, it was a lid, hiding something beneath like a secret held underwater.
I didn't want to know, and that's how I knew it was the truth, because truth rarely arrives comfortable.
Below, the swamp didn't smell like mud. It smelled like confinement,
like time kept in a jar. Metal doesn't appear in swamps by accident. Someone had brought it here for a purpose, and the purpose was still moving.
I heard a human sound, not a speech, not a plea, just proof of life where the world insisted there was death. In that moment, the case stopped being a puzzle and became a question about justice and who gets to decide its shape.
Elijah made it clear without a word. I could leave alive, or I could keep digging and become another rumor.
I understood then. The swamp wasn't hiding a body. It was hiding a verdict, and the verdict was meant to stay hidden.
When I stepped back into daylight, the world looked normal again, and that made it feel even more dishonest.
Filed the same safe words everyone wanted, because the truth would have put innocent families back on a chain.
Cain's men could pretend it was over, because a monster story asks no follow-up questions.
Beaumont could call it nature and sleep at night, because nature can't testify against a man.
Flint looked ready to inherit Cain's territory, until whispers of the swamp cooled even his appetite. And the reason I kept silent became clear. Others began using the swamp as a corridor to freedom. But silence has a cost, because every secret you keep becomes a weight you carry alone.
14 years later, a letter arrived with no signature, only a sentence that reopened everything. It read, "The Spectre still breathes, and the swamp still keeps him."
I considered returning, because a secret that lasts too long starts to feel like complicity.
But by 1890, the region had more roads, more men with guns, and more reason to destroy any sanctuary they couldn't control. I went anyway, because some truths demand a witness, even if the witness must stay unnamed.
The notches remained, proof that the sanctuary was not a moment. It was a practice, maintained. This time the swamp did not welcome me. It held the line, as if Elijah had changed the rules.
And then, from the same dark water, I heard 3 taps, like a message that had been waiting years for the right ear. I realized the tapping wasn't random. It was structured, as if Cain had learned to speak through a wall of water. The twist wasn't that Cain survived. The twist was that time had turned him from hunter into prisoner, forced to learn the language of mercy. Elijah kept Cain alive for the same reason he kept others alive, because control over life is the only power oppression truly respects.
I sealed my notes because revealing them would have turned the swamp into a battlefield, and the fugitives into targets again.
Monsters are often invented to hide a simpler truth. Someone resisted, someone outsmarted, and someone refused to be owned.
Sarah lied the way a mother lies, by withholding details that would get her children killed.
Jebediah lied the way cowards lie, by making their fear sound like fate.
Beaumont lied the way power lies, by calling fear order and cruelty necessity.
Flint lied the way predators lie, by assuming everyone else is as hungry as he is.
4 stories collided, but one detail stayed consistent. The swamp didn't act alone. Someone guided it.
The story ends where it began, in fog, because that's where the powerless learn to hide their power.
The twist isn't a monster, it's communication. Cain wasn't swallowed by the swamp. He was contained by a mind that learned how to build prisons out of nature.
So here's the hardest question. Was Elijah delivering justice, or was he building a kind of vengeance, the law?
If you notice the tapping pattern change across scenes, you already saw the clue Elijah couldn't erase. I believe Elijah built a sanctuary first, and only built a prison when Cain forced the sanctuary to defend itself.
People believed monsters because monsters require no guilt, only fear, and fear keeps the old order intact. Elijah became a legend not by seeking credit, but by refusing to become visible to the people who would destroy him.
Officially, the case was closed, but the swamp never signed that document.
Be honest, What did you believe first, and what detail made you change your mind?
In the comments, write the first clue you caught. Was it the notches, the hat, the taps, or the way the swamp suddenly got too quiet?
If you want the next case, where a single river marker exposed an entire network, subscribe to SlavesRevenge.
And the last thing I'll leave you with is this. Somewhere in that swamp, a rhythm still answers the darkness.
This case doesn't end with comfort, it ends with a question about who gets to define justice when the law is built to deny it.
The swamp keeps secrets the way a grave keeps bones, quietly, completely, and without apology.
This is SlavesRevenge, where the record says one thing, and the truth says another.
Subscribe, because the next file will reveal how a single symbol on a riverbank unraveled an entire hidden route to freedom.
And tell me, if you stood where I stood, would you expose the truth?
Because in the Great Cypress Swamp, the most terrifying thing isn't what you see in the fog, it's what you choose to leave there alive.